Yo, what is up, world, the universe, Earth, the state of Texas? It's House Divided, Orange Buzz Live, brought to you by Texas Card House here. Do us a solid, like, comment, subscribe to the page. We love it when you do those things. We are over 25,000 subscribers. We appreciate that. It's quite a journey, and we look forward to the next 25,000. Jump into that Specs chat. What up, Doak, by the way, who's in the Specs chat live from Ketchum, Idaho.
How about that?
It's my play cousin. What
Very
up, Doak?
nice. Oh, look at this. Video game nerd looking for that release. College Football 26, July 9th. Sailor Joe.
So jump into the Specs chat, entertain us, send some super chats. It's going to be an interactive, involved day. It's NFL draft day. We'll certainly have some conversation about that. In fact, I can tell you right now, Chad, several of my buy or sell questions are related to tonight's first round of the draft. One of them related to Matthew Golden, who's expected to be a first round draft pick tonight, along with Kelvin Banks and Jahdae Barron. So it should be a big night for Texas. Should be a good night for A&M too. Shamar Stewart and Nick Scorton expected to go off the board at some point. I actually need to have a talk with you about both of those guys.
Okay.
Because I think I was like overly hyped about Scourton when he came in from Purdue.
Right.
I just never felt like he was a dude at A&M. Like, he was okay.
Neither one of those guys has been super flashy. Had like super, stat guy, whatever. Both really good at times, but neither were elite badasses.
Like, I feel like I watched enough A&M football games last year to be able to go, well, I'd take those guys on my NFL team for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, would I use the number 12 pick in the draft on either of them? And it's like, well, no.
That's another question. Yeah.
No.
I'm with you. I agree. Yeah.
So there's NFL draft stuff to get into. It also, I don't know that we're 48 hours away. I guess it would be less than that. We're into Thursday. We're 2 days away, less than 2 days away, like 36 hours, I guess, depending on how exactly the NCAA cuts that bad boy off. But the portal window in college football opened up on the 16th, closes on the 25th. We're running out of time to see names jump into the portal. We're running out of time to see if anybody from Texas enters the portal. Keep in mind, Texas sitting at 84 scholarships. They have one left to get to 85 if they want to do anything beyond. And I keep thinking, if you're really sitting at one, do you want to use it now? Could anything happen in the summer? And then do you think there'd be an option if there was a freak accident that caused you to lose running back depth? I don't know. Something that there was a hit somewhere where you're like, oh, thank God. It's like having a timeout, right? You don't want to use your last timeout because you never know when you're really going to need it. There's a part of me that wonders whether or not part of their inactivity right now in the portal, Chad, because it's kind of, they've kicked some tires, but they haven't put keys in the car on any of these guys that are currently in the portal. No visits set up that we're aware of. I guess something could happen, but the question of will anybody else from this Texas team enter the portal? If the answer ends up being no, I'll actually be quite surprised, because I think there are some guys that are being told you're not going to play this year, and we aren't really even sure that we're ever going to count on you based on our actions. And, I'll give you an example. And I certainly don't want to mean to call a guy out, but I think Melvin Hills, the redshirt freshman defensive tackle, is an interesting guy because they've taken 5 defensive tackles in the portal. One of them, though, is a second-year guy like him. So in the pecking order, there's another guy in his class now that's moved ahead of him. And oh, by the way, there's a pile of freshmen that they just brought in that at some point. Now, I'm not saying that Melvin Hills isn't going to be good. Hell, maybe Melvin Hills will be the best player in that group. But what I'm saying is Melvin Hills can do the math and realizes, man, I'm 6th, 7th, 8th in the defensive tackle pecking order, I'll be honest, it'd be a little surprising based on what we see across college football. A lot of guys with that type of situation in 2025 are ghost. And I think there are some guys like that on the roster. It isn't even really about whether or not he's going to be a good football player. It's a lot more about he's a guy that's into year 2 or year 3, depending on who you're looking at on the roster. And I think Malik Agbo is a good example of this. You could just know that he was going to be into the portal as a 4th-year junior who was 3rd string and running behind a true freshman. So, you just wonder guys that have been put into kind of that box. Do they sit? And are they Max Merrill, who was like, I'm good? He never lettered at Texas, but he got through his junior season, walked on senior day, lived the life.
Yeah, he's a Longhorn.
Got his T ring, and he graduates with a badass degree, connections galore, and he got to be a player on 2 playoff teams, even if he didn't letter, right? So there may be guys that are like, nah, man, I'm good. Because if I enter the portal, is my next UT Tulane? No, I'm good. I'll trust my talent. So I just think there's some interesting guys to watch. Keep in mind, we'll be hearing about guys potentially that enter the portal as late as Sunday, because guys that enter their names into the portal tomorrow, the last day they can legally do it by NCAA rules, there's then a 48-hour buffer window from the moment the name goes into the portal to when it becomes active in the portal and things can go public.
Is it the school has like 2 days to fully acknowledge it? Is that the 48 hours that's on the school?
And the school can enter it faster if they want to.
But they have 2 days to do it.
It takes 48 hours.
Right.
They all do.
They're just going to breathe. You know what? We'll talk to you Sunday. We will talk to you Sunday.
If it's anybody they remotely want to keep, so what does that mean? Well, unless the kid goes out of his way to say I'm entering the portal or a media person breaks it, you wait until the name pops into the portal, and then there's a rush. If you're on social media, you'll see it. There's like 8 tweets. It's like, this guy from the University of Houston is in the portal. And it's like everybody's aggregating the news of the new guy that's in the portal. So we'll see names into Sunday. Tomorrow's the last day that guys can enter the portal. And I think it'd be great for Texas if a couple of guys get to enter the portal, and instead of 1, they're sitting at 3. And then I think they can continue to just little bit by little bit make the team a little bit better in 2025. I'm a big fan of what they've done this spring in the portal. And I think there's a part of me that just doesn't want it to stop. It's like, feed me, Seymour, feed me.
We need to talk about if it's enough and kind of where they are right now. And we'll get into some other portal stuff. We do see a super chat there.
I'm fully like open to the idea that I just like the dopamine hits.
Right. Well, that could be it. That's what we need to figure out. We'll get into. I got a couple questions for you off of your comments. I think that's where we need to start. We need to get you a little portal therapy today. We'll do that. Let's throw up some Hijack Poker real quick. Speaking of catching therapy, here's another part of his therapy. HijackPoker.com. Get that app. Put it on whatever device you want. If you're in the state of Texas, you can play Hijack Poker. Online poker is back and better than ever. Thanks to Texas Card House for not only sponsoring this show, but for bringing you Hijack Poker. Check them out, hijackpoker.com. Real quick, we'll show you how it works and encourage you to, send more. But this is a 199er from Google Scholar. Here's to my Texans trading up to take Banks. Looking for some
22 is his floor, right? At that point, the Texans, if they stayed put, would have to take Kelvin Banks.
Oh, yeah. If he's still there? Oh, yeah. Is that where they pick? Is it 22?
Yes.
Is that the number? Yeah, no.
But I saw a mock today that had Banks at 26, and I nearly chewed off my tongue. I was like,
I do not understand. And just to throw this one out, Catch, because I don't know. Esrone says, buy or sell, you can tell me the NFL team that has drafted the most Texas players. I'll sell S-Roan. I can't. I know it's not the Cowboys.
It's got to be the Cowboys.
There's no way. That's
the Cowboys.
There's no way
they've had
that's
60 years of drafting. They have drafted some Cowboys.
That's drafted the most Longhorns ever?
Well, the only other team would have to be the Kansas City Chiefs, back as the Dallas Texans.
I mean, you realize the draft's been going. I mean, the Cowboys were only born in 60, right? The draft's been going on way longer than that.
Oh,
the NFL.
I thought that we were talking about. I thought the question is which NFL team from Texas. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
I glanced at that and misread it, and I thought we were talking about which NFL team from Texas.
Oh, no.
Had drafted the most Texas players. And that's what I was saying. I don't even need to know the answer to kind of think I know the answer.
No. S-Roan, I do not know. I'll throw out the for some reason the Lions pop in my head. But tell us. You let us know who it is in the chat. But I do not know the answer to that question. Jay,
do I get a guess before the answer comes out?
Sure. Who do you think? I'm saying Lions. Because I see Roy Williams and Quandre Diggs and other guys, but then Roy wouldn't have been. Was he drafted by the Lions? He was, wasn't he? Yeah.
I am going to go. I'll go with the Kansas City Chiefs.
The Chiefs. Okay. All right. I like that.
But the Lions go all the way back to Bobby Lane.
Right. That's another reason I thought of the Lions, and Lane popped into my head too. So
it could be one of these old school,
right. The Bears,
100-year franchises.
Bears, Lions, Packers.
Exactly. It's the Giants. Packers haven't taken one in 30 years, but they took 12 back in the 30s.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I'd also like these two super chats that Jay throws us. $5 super chat. Locked On Sooners released a video responding to what you said yesterday. Apparently you said all that because Texas fans are scared of what OU is doing. There you go.
Jay, that's interesting because the thing that I continue to say is I'm absolutely fascinated by what Oklahoma is doing. I like the hire of Nagy because I thought it fit the profile of a need they had. Whether or not that guy needs to be the general manager or not, having that guy in the program and running that department felt like a smart move. And I think every program should strive to have somebody of that level. I'm not saying this guy's the Albert Einstein of scouting, but his job at the Senior Bowl is to literally try to find under the radar, find talent that hasn't otherwise been seen, not find the first round talent, find the guys that maybe the Buffalo Bills have not seen, and you're going to put that guy in front of him. And that's why they show up, because you're bringing them guys that they want to see. And the thing is, as I've said, this is like a Moneyball approach. This is and I am so in favor of using enhanced analytics and data to improve your decision making. So there's a lot about what OU is doing in theory, because they haven't come out and said this is exactly how it's going to be. But we can put two and two together. That they're doing it at the SEC level, and that it's Oklahoma as the guinea pig is the stunning thing. And I actually kind of wish it wasn't Oklahoma doing it. I would like to have seen some Arizona in the Big 12, or Arizona State in the Big 12, or Cal, or one of these programs that's in a major conference that kind of, what the hell else are they going to do? And I'm not necessarily talking about the Oakland A's of college football. It doesn't have to be Northwestern, but it would make sense for them. I think I agree. Can you use a ultra narrow and hyper detailed and data-driven analysis of team building in a way that you can cheat some margins, find some guys that otherwise wouldn't have been found, and make the overall quality of your program stronger than it can possibly be by using kind of cheating the advantages that you have because nobody else is really using them. So like what Oklahoma in theory is going to do, I love the idea of seeing somebody try it. I actually love the idea of somebody pulling it off. How cool will it be if in 10 years from now, there's a way of building programs in college football that make the mid-tier teams able to maybe compete with the big dog teams better than ever because something like the money ball of college football comes. So I'm fascinated by what they're doing. Again, though, that Oklahoma in the SEC compete. It is the league with the most NFL players. It is the league that is thought to have had the highest level of competition. And it's asking a lot of small school stars or under the radar guys to make the biggest leap of all. Not, hey, can you play major college football? Yeah, cool. Do you think you could play at like a Power 4 conference? Yeah, okay. Do you think you can get on a field with the guys at Georgia and Texas and beat them? These are massive leaps. And Oklahoma being the program that's guinea pigging this out, I think is doomed to fail. But
and you may have missed the step in there of can you make the playoff? I think that's before can you beat Georgia or Texas? Can you make the playoff, right? Can you get into the 12?
Well, there's more steps than that. I just wanted to get to the main point, which is at the end of this, because a lot of these guys aren't – look, Javion Cole at Texas last year is a perfect example. That was a guy that was an all-WAC I think that's the conference he was playing in. First-team guy. Pro Football Focus said he had one of the highest pass defense rates in America. So on paper – that guy looked like, hey, when he comes to Texas, that guy's going to compete right away for a starting spot. That's why Texas brought him in. They were not dicking around with a guy from San Jose State because they were like, maybe this guy will be good in 2 or 3 years. No. They looked at what was on the sticker. They looked at like on the price sheet. And they were like, that looks good. They brought him in. And then it turned out that guy could not play anywhere near the level that Texas wanted their core, and he just didn't play and got back into the portal and got the hell out of Texas. That happens a lot. And, but that guy could have gone to Texas Tech and his entire experience might have been better because Jahdae Barron isn't his competition at one cornerback spot. Malik Muhammad's not on the other spot. There's not 5 stars coming into the program like Kobe Black that are even you know what I mean? Like a little bit of a different situation. That guy might be perfectly at home and a pretty good player. He's just not at the can we beat Ohio State or Georgia phase of the project. That dude could have got on the field against Vanderbilt and been just fine, I'm guessing. But that's not the level that Texas is trying to get to.
Unless he was going to play at Alabama, and then getting on the field with Vanderbilt would have been a bad idea. Catch, I do not understand this other super chat. I'm just going to throw it up, and maybe you can help. $5 from Jay. Remember what SteelManning is in honor of that OU video. Would you Steelman your take from yesterday about what OU is doing with the non-Power 4 guys? Do you have any idea what that is?
No, but I've got Google, so hold on.
SteelManning?
By the way, when I first got with when Yahoo bought Rivals, we had to, we all use Google, but because I was like partners with Yahoo, I'd have to say hold on, I've got a Yahoo search that I'm going to. And somewhere along the way, didn't Yahoo just gave up on the search, I think. And I'm glad they did. We could just Google things. SteelManning is a rhetorical technique where one constructs the strongest, most defensible version of an opposing argument to better understand and address it. So it's the opposite of, that's SteelManning. Yeah. It's the opposite of straw manning, which weakens an opponent's position. So he's basically saying I should have went M&M and 8 Mile.
I see. Okay. All right.
And look, no, I don't remember what that is, but like Jay, like I said, you're smarter than me. I didn't know what SteelManning was. And Chad was like the Siska come DeLauterian or something at A&M. What were you again? You were graduate? What is the thing that you were?
What is the thing that I was?
Yeah,
at
you
A&M?
had your title. You had status.
I graduated magna cum laude. Yeah. You want to do a show on what it's meant?
It just sounds so good.
You want to do a show on what it's gotten me? We can do that later. We'll do that later.
I'm just saying, when you say it out loud, I find myself, in awe of your greatness. So
that is one of the bigger lies you've ever told. I love that you use the word awe. The only thing I'm in awe of is that you're the only person willing to pay me right now. So you laugh all you want. Do whatever you need.
Oh, come on, Chad. Damn.
No, you do whatever you need to do, but it is true. Yes. Magna cum laude is the term.
Look, I'm so far away from that. I still can't. I've heard you say it 100 times and I never can remember. That's how far away I was from that status, Chad.
Right.
Couple of things on the portal, Chad, just to continue the conversation, because I don't remember completely where we were other than responding to the OU thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna get back. I do want to get back to Texas real quick. Esserone says it is the Bears with 27 is what
one of the Giants.
Yeah, and technically I think they're saying they're the ones that got Bobby Lane, that Lane didn't start with the Lions, that the Bears actually drafted Bobby Lane. I forgot. I think that is right. Now that
he was with the Steelers.
Thinking through it, I think that may be right, that it was the Bears with him. But anyway, that is the team. But yeah, catch the question. I guess I would, that I had in my head as you were going through it. It really is about 2 days left. Has Texas done enough? They've certainly been active in this portal. Both portals. They were active in the winter version. Now they've really gotten going in the spring version. Sark laid out 3 positions where he thought the numbers weren't good. They added at least one to all of them, and then 2 in one of them with the defensive line thing. So let me start with right now with what they've done. Could you see them? What's the step? Could you see them getting back to the semis?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Could you see them playing for all of it? Title game?
Sure.
And do you think they've done enough where you could say they're one of the teams that could win a natty?
Sure.
Okay. If they've done that.
That's not the same thing as like, what do I think is going to happen?
Right.
I think, Chad, because I think context matters here. And I think this is the context behind my answers. I don't think any of the teams in college football, not Georgia, not Ohio State, not Texas specifically, those are the 3 I'm primarily thinking about, okay? I don't think any of those 3 belong in the same sentence with the versions of those teams from a year ago yet. Like Ohio State, you think about the guys that they had at defensive end last year.
Right.
They just got a guy in the portal that we'll talk about in a second, Bo Atkinson.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on that one.
But that guy's not remotely as good as either of the guys that I think won that game for the Buckeyes. Their end play in that game was exceptional, and we obviously know that Jack Sawyer makes the defining play of that game. This guy's not that. And it's the best they've got by a mile. We don't know about quarterback at Ohio State. They're good. They're really good. And why wouldn't you have them in the top 5 or top 3? Or number 1 or number 2? Like, I get it. But I think all 3 of the big dog teams are lesser versions of themselves today than they were a year ago. Even at the same time.
That's probably true.
So yeah. I think we may be going into a year next year where a team might emerge as, like, think about 2 years ago, we knew going in, Michigan's going to be a bear. Yeah, I don't think there are those teams quite. I don't even know that Texas was in that group quite last year, but I know we thought of Georgia and Ohio State like that.
Here's a good question. Of the three, who's closest? Big Cheddar.
I think it might be Texas.
I do too. I was just thinking, like, if I'm going to make that argument, especially when I'm going to start my thought process with quarterback.
They're ahead at that position.
Yeah.
And
with what Ohio State lost at running back, and with what Ohio State lost on that defensive front, and what, just when you start adding it all up, I might agree with you. I think it might be a slight edge to Texas right now.
Now their teams are loaded with talent, just like Texas, right?
And we get to watch Texas play both of them, which is glorious for college football fans. You start with the Ohio State version, and then in November you get to see them play Georgia, and they might have to play both of them twice.
And look, I will acknowledge that. I think we went into last season thinking that Georgia and Ohio State were great teams. That were separate from everybody else. And Texas joined that group. And by the end of the season, it did feel like those three teams, for me anyway, just felt like those are the three best teams in the country.
By the end for me, it was if Ohio State hits their potential, nobody touches them.
Correct.
And that's the way it was by the end.
But I would have almost said that about Georgia and Texas as well. That Texas almost beat Ohio State, and that was with a litany of injuries.
Yeah, you're right.
They didn't have Bond. They really didn't have Golden. That was not the best version of Texas from a are they playing at their peak. But I tend to agree with you. If peak versus peak collided, the universe would probably explode. But I tend to think you're right that Ohio State might have been a smidge better if you're hitting both or hitting their highest points. Although it's hard to say because presumably that means that Quinn Ewers is hitting his greatest heights. And we just didn't see that enough to even know what that truly feels like.
That's fair.
So in a world where Texas has Chad, in a world where the Michigan version of Quinn Ewers played once against Georgia, played against Ohio State, played in any of the big games like he did elsewhere in that Michigan game, everything about all of those games change.
Oh, yeah.
All of them.
Yep. And there wouldn't have needed to be like a dramatic Texas kicker moment in either game.
No. So, so when we talk about Ohio State's peak and upside, I feel like I actually got to see Howard close to that. And you know what? Ohio State's peak at the end was really good. They were nice in the playoffs, but they were still only one or two plays better than Texas was. So in a world where Quinn's playing his best, I don't know. And he has a healthy Bond and Golden.
Yeah, and you mentioned the injury stuff, but I've brought up, God, if one holding call gets made, there's just little things in that game. It was really a close, fine margin kind of deal. Catch, we got a couple good chats kind of that involve Ohio State, so maybe we could use those to get to the discussion of who they grab, because I do think that it can obviously tie us back to August 30th. If you guys want to throw a chat in, feel free. Super chats, we've already had a few. Thank you for those. They'll go right to the top, and we're up over 500 folks in the Specs chat. While we're thinking about it, let's give Specs their love. There's an anniversary to celebrate.
Have you heard the news? Specs is turning 63, and we're celebrating you. Whether you're looking for whiskey, canned cocktails, or wine, Specs has it all with Texas-sized savings all month long. Specs. Cheers to save.
All right, Catch, a couple things here. This is a good one from Chris Bennett to remind everybody. Ohio State is replacing both coordinators. Catch, I just had to look up one of them. Can you name the new offensive and defensive coordinators for the Buckeyes?
No.
When
you say them, I will be reminded of them, but no, off the top of my head, no.
The new OC is Brian Hartline.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Brian Hartline's been a phenomenal wide receivers coach there for a while. So good on him. Good for him.
Yeah. obviously a guy that played there and he's been in part of the coaching staff. So they're giving him that promotion. The other one, I'll admit, I didn't know when I woke up today, and I saw it as I was reading about Bo Atkinson, who I want to get your thoughts on. Matt Patricia.
I did not know that either.
The former Belichick guy, the former head coach in the NFL, the beard, that guy is going to be coaching the defense at Ohio State. So just to kind of remind everybody of that. But then the other one we got, Catch, that'll lead us right to Atkinson is Ohio State lost their entire starting defensive line. It is one of the reasons why they were taking a look at this cat from North Carolina. And they did get him out of the portal, yesterday, right? Last night?
That's wrong. There's going to be like 30 guys drafted from Ohio State and Texas in the next 3 days.
Yeah.
They both lost entire stuff. Like, it just – and that's what happens on teams like Ohio State and Texas a year ago. Those were the two best teams in the country. With all due respect to Georgia, if they do have a healthy Carson Beck, if a Georgia fan wanted to tell me they think they win the national championship if Carson Beck stays healthy, I don't know that I agree, but I get it, because they just became uncompetitive and impossible to win without a quarterback, and they're good enough defensively that if they just have a guy driving the bus, they would have had a chance. So Bo Atkinson, you want to have this talk?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good spot for it, because Tuimoloau is going to get drafted and Sawyer is going to get drafted, and the other two guys that started, Williams, and I can't think of the other name, they're all getting drafted. And I wanted to get your thoughts on Bo Atkinson, because you have identified over the last day or so on the show how you think Texas is acting in the portal, kind of guys you think they're going after, and it seems to be working. Is this one of those guys? Did Ohio State just follow the pattern that Texas has kind of found? Like, what would you tell Texas fans about what Ohio State just did?
It's an interesting deal. Can I just kind of tell it in a story format, because this has evolved over the course, I think, of this week. Mm-hmm. Even going back to last week when he first entered the portal and his presence became of interest to me. When he entered the portal, one of the first things I saw was a sizzle reel of him on Twitter that was probably about a minute long. And I watched it, and I was like, okay, he's very Ovio Gofu-ish. This kid had 11 and a half tackles for sacks. He had 7 and a half sacks, which was a big number.
11 and a half TFL.
What's that?
You said 11 and a half TFL or 11 and a half sacks? Okay. 11
and a half TFL.
Gotcha.
But as I watched the sizzle reel that was put together, man, he was just he was involved in some coverage sacks. There were just plays that were selected as highlight plays that I thought, well, he's okay. He's okay. But I didn't think I was watching a big-time guy. Well, as soon as his name enters the portal, the first two things you hear is that he schedules a visit for Georgia this past weekend, and he schedules a visit with Ohio State coming out of that weekend. It's like, whoa, okay.
Getting two of the big ones.
There aren't many guys that went into the portal that put together that 1-2 visit combo.
Yeah.
But I was a little dismissive of it. He wasn't first team all ACC or anything like that. He was a good player last year, but in the film that I watched, just a little bit of it didn't make me think I need to watch more. So he goes to Georgia, and Georgia brings in 2 edge players this weekend, Chad. There's a kid named, it's a strange name, and I just look it up. So tell you effectively who they signed. Georgia signed this kid named Elo Madozi.
Is that the one out of Army?
Yes.
Okay.
They brought him and Atkinson in on the same weekend, last weekend, same time.
Okay.
And it kind of felt like, because Georgia's not working with a 105 scholarships the way these Big Ten teams are. They had to fit under the 85. So it felt very much like, okay, well, they're bringing in both of these guys. They'll come out of the weekend with one. The question will be, which one will they get? Well, I had watched the film of Mendoza, and he and Atkinson aren't really the same guys at all. I think Atkinson's almost Baron Sorrell, and Mendoza's Trey Moore from a body type and stature standpoint.
Okay.
But it looked like Georgia prioritized Mendoza, and that's who they came away with a commitment from. So when Atkinson left, it was like, oh, man, you lost your leverage. Georgia's out of the picture. It just kind of became a slam dunk that it was going to end up at Ohio State. Once that happened yesterday, there was just so much talk about the kid and like how good he was. And I was like, man, we are overcooking the grits on this. So I went to YouTube and I put on a longer extended version of his stuff. And at first it started out exactly the same way. I was like, here we go. Yeah, no, he got a coverage sack 7 seconds into a play where he was originally blocked for 4 seconds. Great. But then it started to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to go, oh, well, that guy's a good athlete. And then there were times I was like, oh, now that looked like an NFL football player. And by the time I was done, I thought to myself, that guy's not as good as the guys at Ohio State had a year ago, but that guy can play at Ohio State.
Right.
And when I hear Ohio State, people say, we don't have anybody from last year who had more than 2.5 sacks coming back or more than 20 tackles. And this guy shows up and is our number one guy. It's like, okay, well, Trevor Gooseby and presumably Brandon Baker get to know Bo Atkinson. You will see him on August 31st. He'll be a big part of that game. And you get the sense that if Ohio State hadn't gotten that guy, I think, it's a little bit like Texas with some of these or the tight end at Texas, right? Where it's like, don't quite know where we are at this position without, we got Atkinson. And so when you're Ohio State, the position that you were really, really concerned about just got the kind of injection that the tight end position got when Jack Injuries committed to Texas. And I think for Ohio State, what was this, Chad? It was them flexing and saying, yeah. What is it going to cost? 1.3, 1.5, whatever. Mm-hmm. We're going to get one of the top. And I think this kid's actually the number one guy in the portal.
Yes. Yeah. I saw when you re-ranked everything, I saw that he was up at the top. So
multiple seasons of eligibility remaining,
right,
is what kind of served as a tiebreaker for me.
And that's why I was asking about kind of the does he fit the mold that we were talking about with what Texas likes? Multiple years of eligibility, Power 5 guy. And then the question I've started asking myself is real simple. Would the school he's leaving want him to stay?
Oh,
the answer is absolutely yes. If that's true, and then does the school...
He's the best player on that North Carolina defense. Whatever that means, that's who he was.
So I think that's one of the big differences in what the portal's done now.
And real quick, Chad, he's like a legit 6'6", 265.
Okay.
He does look the part. He's got almost like a Ken Hackamack looking build. He's so tall. And like if he's listed at 6'6", he looks 6'6". There are times that you look at older film and he's a leaner guy. So one of the things it's hard not to think is like, what does this guy look like if he goes to Ohio State and they Ohio State him up? And 18 months from now, he's 285 and is able to maintain. And it's a great 285. Like maybe then we're talking about this guy as the same type of NFL prospect of a Jack Sawyer, who will go in the first couple of days of the draft.
Yeah. So this is that. I mean, it feels like it's that type of guy where there's time left. It's not Because if it's a guy with a year left, let's say, or
He's
maybe
got 2 seasons, like
Right.
that's so important. It's I looked at it like this. I was looking at the Rivals rankings, Chad. Noah Thomas transferred from A&M to
Georgia.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Last year, he had 39 catches, 500 and something yards, 8 touchdowns. He's a good player. Noah Thomas is good.
Mhm.
In 4 less games as a true freshman, Emmett Mosley had same number of catches, same number of yards, same number of touchdowns in 4 less games. I think they're both very good. I think Noah Thomas might be a smidge better, right? Like in what would have been maybe his junior season last year versus this kid's true freshman season. I think Thomas has 1 year left. I think that's right?
I think that's true.
I think I saw him listed as a senior.
I think
So
that's
yeah, because it comes down to, from a value standpoint, and this is how I did some of my rankings, who's more valuable? If the talent level is, from a production standpoint, in major conferences is mostly similar. If one guy's got 3 years of eligibility left and another guy just has 1 season, to me that is just super obvious which is the more valuable commodity in totality.
Yeah, and it is 1 season left for Noah Thomas. You were right.
And it's one of the things that stood out about what, if they bring in Jack Injuries and he's a grad senior, part of the thing that you're saying is, okay, well, we got him, but we still have to answer the tight end question. Because in 6 months, he won't be here. And then what? We're back to square. It's the defensive tackle problem, right? You add injuries, though, and suddenly you're like, oh, we've got the Arch Manning era covered. We don't have to worry about necessarily having a tight end while Arch is here. Seems like a good thing. Kind of the same thing with Emmett Mosley. It's like, oh, even if this guy proved to be a first-round draft pick in the NFL, a la Matthew Golden, he still has to play 2 more seasons before he's draft eligible. There's no circumstance other than for him to go back into the portal and go elsewhere, for him to kind of depart Texas next year, no matter how good he is. And so, I think it can't. And then, Murad Watson is the same thing. That guy has 3 years of eligibility remaining. And when you look at the rankings in the industry, you've got guys who aren't as athletically gifted as him, who haven't played in power conferences, who have 1 season of eligibility remaining, who are ranked ahead of a guy who is better athletically, has more like power conference proven experience, and has 2 or 3 seasons of eligibility remaining. It is one of the things about the current rankings in all Rivals 24/7 on 3. They all can't really figure out how to rank kids in the portal. And it's the most pseudoscience-y thing about a thing that is pure pseudoscience.
Yeah, feels like something that these big dogs are definitely looking for. Can he give you multiple years? And is the team he's leaving really pissed that he's leaving? I think those are 2 key factors in stories like this, because Belichick would want this guy to stay. Bo Atkinson is the name of the guy that Ohio State just grabbed out of the portal.
And real quick, it's funny that you would say that, because both in the last few days, the coach at Cal and the coach at Syracuse have been asked for comments about Murad Watson and Jack Injuries going into the portal and going to Texas. Injuries coach said, if there was one guy on the team we didn't want to lose, it was him. Right. But what are you going to do?
Yep.
And the Syracuse coach said, we wanted to keep him. We think he was really good for us last year. He walked into my office and told me how much Texas was offering him. And I told him, why are you talking to me? Get the hell out of here. See ya in the future.
Damn. Yeah. Right.
And
this has become it's almost become like a baseball, not free agency. It's almost like a baseball minor league, major league kind of thing, or maybe it is baseball free agency where you got guys that are being sort of grown in a franchise that can't generate all the money. And then the ones that can, the Dodgers and the Yankees and those kind of teams, they'll just come pick them. They'll come find them.
It's
and when
worse than that, Chad. It's European soccer.
Okay.
Because in that sport, in Major League Baseball, you can still have a small market team give its star a monster contract. And like those guys will stay. Now, you're right. There are times when the guys are like, hey, man, I want to win, so I'm going to the Yankees or the Dodgers. That definitely happens. But in soccer, there are no exceptions. The small clubs and the mid-level clubs, no matter how good their players are, they have to move them up the food chain. And the reason why is because the big clubs are the only ones that get to play in the most prestigious competition, the Champions League. And it's a little bit like that in college football now, though, too, because guys are going to say, ultimately, I want to be able to play in the playoffs. And there are going to be about 20, 25 programs that feel like that's who they are. That annually they're rightfully competing to get into there. And then the next level up will be, I want to play for a program that can win a national championship. There aren't nearly as many of those. But I do think, to me, this feels very English soccer in Spain. If you've got a good player, Real Madrid and Barcelona are just going to come take them.
Yeah.
And there's nothing they can do.
Yeah. That's
You can have a guy on a 5-year contract, and you know what the guy can do, Chad? Put in a transfer request, and then you have to sell him. Now, there's some real financial punishment that comes along with that, but there are literally things that guys can do to be like, I know I signed a contract, but I want to go to Manchester City, so F you, sell me. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it is crazy that the coach would tell the kid, oh, yeah, what are you doing talking to me if that's the offer? All right, we'll circle back to Texas here in a second. If you guys want to throw us a super chat, we will do that. Let me tell the folks about Taste on Maine real quick. Always makes me hungry thinking about Taste on Maine. Here's a good idea. Get some of this great spring weather. You like to eat outside. They have this awesome treehouse bar area over at Taste on Maine. Get your reservation set up and go eat out there. Or just maybe you're going to hang out, out there. We'll do a little happy hour out there. They do that. They got great brunch on Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 3. But they've also got just an incredible steakhouse out there. Nice casual environment. No dress code. You're in downtown Buda. It's just an awesome environment. The steaks are incredible. The drinks are incredible. Remember, these are the same people that bring you Hayes City Store. So the details are covered and then some out at Taste on Maine. Start with the Sam Elliott's mustache if you love a whiskey drink, and then just start pointing at the menu. You're not going to hit anything bad. Right there on Main Street in Buda. Check them out. Taste on Maine. All right, so Catch, we've talked about Ohio State here and this latest move they've made. So back to Texas and how you're seeing their situation. 2 days left technically, but as you point out, maybe it's the weekend of getting things official. In terms of you loving the dopamine hit of this and you loving the energy of these moves, how much of it right now is you just kind of want another one? And how much of it is Texas needs something in your mind?
Well, look, man, when it's baseball season, not so much the NFL, but if it's the NBA, but definitely baseball, and the trade deadline is approaching, every time a trade gets made, it's like, oh, they traded a double-A pitcher to Baltimore for a relief pitcher with an ERA of 4.25. You're like, yeah, let's do that again. And can we do better? And like, there's something about just the wheeling and dealing Vegas nature of making moves. Got to make moves. So I do love that, but this is a team. I can still almost go running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line. I'm not going to say defensive tackle. I have to think they've got that covered.
I would assume, but
linebacker, corner, safety. I ran out of fingers.
Yeah.
On one hand, anyway, I could still make a case that each of those rooms is lacking at least one piece of extra quality that would make me feel like, oh, they're good. They're totally good, and they don't need anything else to go in to win a championship. Now, as they're currently positioned, could they still go do that? Yeah. But if whatever room and leverage you have to make yourself just a little bit better, because it is all about really fine margins that decide these things. And injuries may have kept Texas from winning it last year. I don't think we talk enough about Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden weren't available at 100% in the Ohio State game. I don't think we talk enough about. You think Texas might score more than 14 points if those guys have been healthy?
Yeah,
but the drop-off is such that it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. And would it have been good enough if the guys had been healthy? Maybe. So you look at that and you go, what are there positions that just could use something? I don't know that tight end needs a starting tight end. They just got Jack injuries. And they do have Jordan Washington coming in, who, by the way, has played 3 career games. He's a redshirt freshman, didn't go through the spring. Maybe we should give that kid a little bit of space to just get his feet wet and prove and kind of earn that he can play at this level before we're like, go be the number 1 tight end, or even go be Juan Davis, who was only Juan Davis in his 5th year. Years 4, 3, 2, and 1, Juan Davis was not the Juan Davis of 2024. So I could even make a case. Is on my list of needs, is another tight end the biggest need? No. But in a world where if you had 7 more scholarships to give out, right?
Right.
And so now you could really, okay, well, we got some room. I think at that point you'd go, you know what? If we've got 7 left, let's go get depth at tight end. That would be really helpful. They don't quite have, if they were doing what the Big Ten is doing this year, this is what they would be doing. Michigan literally just signed 2 small school running backs on the same day, on the same weekend after they had them come in on visits. Whereas I thought the same thing about them, Chad, that I thought about the defensive ends at Georgia. I thought whoever the primary target of these 2 players is, will be the guy that they'll land, and the other guy will just leave. They took them both.
They just took them both. Okay, so you're saying for Texas, now remind me here, are they allowed to get the stuff and then clean the house if they need to, scholarship-wise, or do they have to clean the scholarships first?
They don't have to be at their scholarship limit until the end of camp, if I'm not mistaken.
At the end of fall camp, like right before the season, right? Okay,
yeah.
All right. So they have so they could do it either way.
I had a Nebraska guy tell me this week that if this was before the thing yesterday with the courts, but he told me the day before that if they approve the settlement and the roster limit is at 105, that they'll bring in 105 scholarship players. And they'll bring about 30 walk-ons to camp.
Good Lord.
And at the end of camp, it's possible that no walk-on makes the team. But if there's an injury or 2, that they could then place the walk-ons. I don't know the exact rule, but it sounds like there's an inactive. A guy can be in your program, but if he's inactive, he doesn't count towards the number. I don't know. But the way he was explaining it was convoluted, but at the end of the day, he was saying they don't have to be at whatever the final number is until at the end of August. And I was like, okay, I guess that's right.
All right. Now you just said something about a court ruling. Have we had an official ruling recently?
Well, the judge has been telling them for weeks that she has a problem with the roster cuts to the walk-ons that will suddenly be SOL. Okay. If the roster gets cut to 105, and then some schools just kill their scholarship programs, like Nebraska.
The walk-on program, you're saying?
Yes.
Would just get cut.
The famed Nebraska walk-on program, that just be gone.
But they haven't officially made the decision on 105 yet.
No. And yesterday the judge said, I'm not approving this deal until you guys figure out what the hell we're doing with all the walk-ons that are set to all the current, not future walk-ons. Just, and to me, it's very COVID-ish. They're going to have to grandfather all the walk-ons, which might mean in the Big Ten, you can take 105 scholarship players and have your walk-on program until the walk-on's eligibility expire.
Until they figure, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that could work. That's crazy. Catch, you get 135 guys on your team. Like, do some guys just not get numbers? Like, do you have to put like pictures of the mascot on some of them? Like, what do? You have some blank jerseys?
You give them like different colored, they're green 88, you know?
Exactly. Like, all right, we're Nebraska, so we're going to go red numbers, white numbers, and black numbers for the black shirts. Everybody good with that? Okay.
Yeah, man. Some of those guys, because they're orange and white in practice. So you got 99 numbers. So you could be a wide receiver, but you might have to wear like orange 99.
Damn. All right. So,
which would be kind of cool, admit it. If you saw a receiver run out in the fall, an all-American wide receiver wearing 99. That'd be kind of dope, actually.
As long as he's a badass, that would be
he's got to be a badass, not a scrub.
Yeah, no, he's got to be great. He's got to be great. That would be fantastic. If you guys want to send us a super chat, it'll go right to the top of the list. We got buy or sell coming up, where I'm going to see what kind of mood Jeff Ketchum is in today. But right now, speaking of Jeff Ketchum and his mood, let's talk about something that helps Jeff Ketchum's mood from time to time, and it is Rogue Shop. Tell him about it, Ketch.
Oh, man. I was talking to Richard from Rogue Shop this morning because we're going to have a Rogue Shop gift package in our Texas baseball NIL fundraiser by Daily and Black starting tomorrow. And it's going to be brownies, a large bottle of Skittles, a large bottle of M&Ms, a large bottle of gummies, a bottle of hard candies, and 10 lollipops, 50 milligrams. They got fun stuff. They are Texas's home for legal CBD, THC, and so much more. Scan that QR code. Go check out what I'm talking about. It's a different kind of Skittles, just so you know. But fantastic, nevertheless. If you've got pain in your joints, in your arms, in your legs, if you're in need of something to help with anxiety or stress or sleeplessness, there's something that helps a little bit with everything. Go to the website, rogueshop.com, or scan that QR code today and let them begin the process of improving your life, because that's what they do. Rogue Shop.
Catch, let me make sure I'm clear as to what you just said. Rogue Shop has Skittles?
I mean, I'm reading what he texted me.
Because
a large bottle of Skittles is what he told me.
If Rogue Shop has Skittles, we might have found my gateway. I'm just saying. Richard, I'm intrigued. Shout out to Rogue Shop.
By the way, put them in the package, because doesn't that make you want to go see what the hell the Skittles are?
My God. Hey, Catch, I've said it for years now. If I could make one candy not bad for me, Skittles. Easy. It is my favorite candy on earth. I eat it like I'm 6, and I can't have it in the house. I can't. If it's in the house, I will hunt it down. So yeah, that's extremely intriguing. All right, so we talked Portal today. We got 2 days left for Portal, kind of technically. Closes up in a couple days. Texas obviously has made some big moves. Ohio State just made this move. What else, Catch? What else is on your brain today when it comes to Portal, Texas football, or whatever else? You mentioned it's draft night as well. And that's coming up, first round day in the draft. What else is on your mind today?
I mean, it's not an insignificant thing that 3 Longhorns are going to go in the first round, maybe in the first 15 picks tonight. And, I do think that it says a lot about what Steve Sarkisian's done in the program, that they may have 15 guys get drafted this weekend, at least a dozen that get drafted. And
A dozen would be a record. The record's 11 from last year in a 7-round draft. So if they got 12, that'd be a new Texas record.
But there's a little bit of a yawn reaction to it now that it's like, oh, well, we've done the double-digit thing before, and they played in a semifinal before. So it's a Texas program that continues to kind of build on what it's been building on. And tonight's part of that it was not that long ago that I was writing columns at orangebloods.com where it was like, man, it sucks to watch the NFL draft and nobody at Texas get drafted. Like, that was a thing. And Texas was 5-7 and doing Charlie Strong things. And everybody remembers the bad times. I think tonight, 3 first-round draft picks when it wasn't that long ago when it felt like Texas hadn't had, Kelvin Banks will go off tonight and it'll be, that whole offensive line in the first round thing, like that's dead. But forever it felt like that was the thing that Texas couldn't get away from. So, there'll be a corner gone, there'll be a receiver gone. The golden thing is a showcase for future portal guys where it's like, come to this offense. I can tell you that I think you are the next, pick any of the Alabama receivers that he had. I think you're the next Jalen Waddle, but what? I don't just need to use the Alabama guys that were first-round draft picks. We took Matthew Golden out of Houston, and we turned him into a top 15 pick in less than 12 months. So that's what we do. So all of these things verify and certify Texas a little bit. And I think certifying yourself in the portal, and I think A&M gets to do that a little bit as well. The success story of Scourton getting drafted in the first round is exactly the same story that you'll be able to tell. And when you don't have that success story and other schools do, it's the kind of thing that impacts guys where it's like, well, I'm a transfer and I'd like to go to the place that has success with those types of players. So I think, real low key, there are check marks that are going off the board for Texas tonight that I don't think anybody's even really talking about or acknowledging, which again is a tip of the cap to Texas that we've reached this point that when it does things like this, it doesn't feel like, holy crap, stop the presses. We haven't had a single thumbnail where it's like, are 15 going to get drafted? Like we haven't had that show. But it felt much like a 12 months ago show where it was like, is Texas going to hit double digits in draft picks? And it felt like a dopamine hit. And, our boys all growing up a little bit.
Right. And I'm going to keep talking about it, Catch. Ben, this 3 first-round picks. Sark has flipped this thing around. Ben, it is a big, big deal. Again, one time ever. Mac didn't do it. Darrell Royal didn't do it. 1980 is the only time it's ever happened. 3 first-round picks. And do you know how many times Alabama's done that? 12. You know how many times Ohio State's done it? 11. 4 for OU. Even A&M's got 2. Texas will tie the Aggies all time tonight with that number. That's how weird it is for Texas in the first round. Sark is now, to your point, Catch, to turn that. I love paying attention to that number because in a mock I was looking at yesterday, Catch, here are the teams that had 3 guys going in the first round, according to this mock. It'll shock you. Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Bama, Michigan. Those were the teams. That's the company you want to be in, and that's the neighborhood Sark has gotten you to if you're a Texas fan.
Only one of those programs hasn't won a national championship in the last few years.
Yeah,
yet.
True. True. It's a good point.
One other thing, just real quick, before we take Barb's $10 super chat.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Barb's, I'm glad you brought this up. I had seen somebody yesterday wanted us to make sure that we commented on this. The other low-key notable element of tonight is that Banks and Golden specifically are Steve Sarkisian players. Bijan goes in the first round, but that was a Tom Herman recruited guy. And then Murphy kind of the same way, along with Tavondre Sweat. And there have been a lot of these guys that have emerged, not Xavier Worthy, right? But a lot of the guys that have emerged as, well, just look at the defensive tackle position. 2 more will go off the boards this weekend, and I believe that would make 6 in the last 3 years, all recruited by Tom Herman. So at some point, we know that Sarkisian can recruit, but you do want to start your guys being, and look, Sark talked about it this weekend. When Ewers gets drafted, it'll be the first time a quarterback at Texas under Sark will have been drafted. And like, he's okay. That's what we need to be doing. We need that box checked because I'm getting ready to go into year 5 and I can't have no quarterbacks on my resume getting drafted during that window. Looks bad. And I think so tonight, those 2 of those guys, Kelvin Banks, he can say every step of the way. And with Matthew Golden, he can tell the story of that guy was kind of middling away at Houston. Great special teams player, but okay receiver. And then in less than a year, he's arguably the best receiver in college football and in the draft. So, those are stories. And with Bijan, it was like, well, Sark didn't really do anything with Bijan. That guy was a freak when he arrived. And so this does allow them, I think, to take some more credit on their success stories, which is just, again, I don't think it's anything anybody's been nitpicking them lately, but you like to be able to check those boxes.
The other cool thing, Catch, if it matters, and I think it would to me if I'm a Texas fan, is this may be a comfy 3 in the first round. Like, you're not going to have to sweat out the 30th, 31st, or 32nd pick.
You may have to sweat out Quinn Ewers, but you won't have to sweat out the first round.
Exactly. You may have all 3 of those guys gone by like 18 or 19. Certainly by 25, 26, it's probably done. That's got to be a good feeling if you're a Texas fan. All right, let's hit this super chat here because I'm not super familiar with the story. So Barb's 10 for $10. Thoughts on the Arkansas and Nico's brother Madden asking for their NIL $200,000 package back. I think we'll see more of this. Ewers goes second round. Hook 'em 3 first rounders. All right. So what is this story?
Well, I think there's a sense that a lot of these guys that jump into the portal do have NIL deals with collectives or other people, and they're kind of abandoning those commitments to go. And there is a little bit of like, well, what are you going to do? Kind of an attitude. Some collectives have been building into contracts language that doesn't just allow guys to take the money and run. So Arkansas is demanding or asking or threatening that they want $200,000 from Nico's little brother, who I guess he already would have collected. And they feel like there is a violation in the contract agreement and that it sounds like they will take him to court to get that $200,000 back if he doesn't pay it back.
Okay.
And what are my thoughts on that? Cool. Fine.
I mean, that's kind of all's fair in love and war, isn't it? Like eventually there's got to be, you got to have in all this discussion of guardrails, Catch, we got to find a way where everybody gets protected, schools and players, right?
I would just say this. Like, you got to do what you got to do. You got to protect yourself. But just like if you're Oklahoma, the story you don't want getting out in public is that you asked the highest recruited player in your program to take a 50%-ish pay cut in NIL because they weren't quite great as a true freshman and money's tight. Like that can happen, I suppose, but man, that can't ever get out. Ever. And then once it gets out, it's like, okay, well, that genie can't be put back in the bottle. It'll always live in the ether. If you're Arkansas, you got to pick the lesser of 2 evils here. One is you're out $200,000 and you think that's some bullshit and you want your $200,000 back. And look, Chad and I would probably eat somebody's arm off right now for $200,000. So I am not like trying to minimize a couple of 6 figures, right?
Yeah.
However, if you're Arkansas, whether it's high school players or transfers coming from other schools, do you want to be known as the SEC program that sues its ex-players? I would argue that could be a deterrent.
Yeah. I could also argue, Catch, if you're Arkansas, there's maybe a lot of bigger fish to fry. And
that's the thing. Like, you have to pick your battles. My wife and I talk about this all the time. I talk about it with my daughter. I picked my daughter up from school yesterday. She was so mad at Hendricks. I was like, what's going on? And she's like, I came up, and they share a classroom in the 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
We were in a group project, and I came up with the nickname Bubble Guppies for our group. But then the group decided they didn't like it. But then one of them told a different group my cool idea for the name. And then that group took Bubble Guppies. And she was like pissed at Hendricks because Hendricks was part of it somehow. And he was mad at some girl. She was mad at some girl I'd never heard of. And I was like, Haven. You know that conversation that we have from time to time where I talk about sometimes in this world we have to consider the things that we're going to let make us feel a certain kind of way and the things that we're not. I was like, we're not even having a conversation about this. This is not one of these. I go, in 30 minutes, you will never think about this ever again. It'll be out of your mind, never to be seen or heard from again. So chill. And she chilled. And like 2 minutes later, I think it was a Taylor Swift song came out, and she's like bopping her head in the song. And like, what about Bubble Guppies? Sometimes your dad knows what he's talking about.
There you go. Was it Shake It Off? Because that would have been the perfect song to just
Shake It Off.
Get rid of it. Yeah.
But it wasn't the Taylor Swift version of Shake It Off.
Okay.
It was the Kids Bop Kids version.
Oh, okay. The super nice version of Shake It Off. Yeah, that is a wild story. Barb's 10, thank you for throwing that in. Part of the crazy.
And I think if I was Arkansas, I'd just let it go.
Would you? See, there's part of me, I get it because Arkansas knows they'll get made fun of, whatever. But I'd also think about, okay, we're Arkansas. People make fun of us. And I just don't think that
$200,000 is worth the negative impression that it will make on future transfers and recruits.
Like only they
will be like, think about it like this. In radio, if you ever had sued one of the stations that ever worked for you, I mean, you're the guy that sues the radio station.
Right. Yeah. And also in the end, they're not at like Tennessee's level or whatever, but Arkansas wants to be seen a certain way. And that
they're an SEC program trying to be better than Texas and Texas A&M and Oklahoma. Like,
right. They're one of those historically newer SEC teams that, fits in, but where do they fit in? And they haven't been able to fight their way to the top, and they want to be seen a certain way. That's not necessarily a great look, but they also know their books better than we do. And they might just tell us, look, fellas, $200,000 is $200,000.
But let me see how this works. Okay.
And we got to figure out how to make this sausage, man.
A kid goes into the portal and Arkansas is offering him $500,000 and Ole Miss is offering him $500,000. And the Ole Miss coach gets a hold of this kid and goes, whoa, Arkansas, the school that sues their players, that they're so broke that they got to fight for every penny and dime that you guys make. Hey, man, I know you like to smoke a little weed. What happens if you don't play well and you fail a drug test and then they think that's a violation of the contract? They try to come back and they'll take the version of that the Nico's brother thing, whose first name I don't know, so it's just Nico's brother.
I think they're saying it's Madden. Does that make sense?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
They'll take that version of it, which we can all agree, and probably even a player would agree, well, it was kind of messed up that he left and took their money and ran, and I kind of get it. They'll twist it, and it's so flammable they'll twist it into the worst things possible. They'll be like, hey, man, what if you go pro? They'll just start saying anything they can.
Yep.
Seize on. If they'll sue a guy for that, they might sue a guy for anything. And like, we're never going to do that. And you know how I can prove that to you? We got a guy that did that to us. We had a guy that we signed. We gave him like $400,000. He left. We didn't like it, but you know what we didn't do? Sue him. And then, trust me.
It's a bad look.
If you're a guy that is a sophomore and is like, I might transfer to Arkansas, but what my dream is to be good enough to go to an Ohio State or a Georgia or a Texas, then you might not, again, you don't want to be the program that's suing its players from the portal. It just, I would pay $200,000 to just never have to ever worry about having to deal with that shit ever.
Yeah, because you can't feel cheap. Whatever level you're on, you don't want to feel cheap. Catch, somebody sent a chat that's going to lead me to a weird story, but I think you might be entertained. Lotion Boy says weird day and age. All right. We were just
when
talking.
Lotion Boy tells you that,
it
is a weird day and age.
Lotion Boy, you have no idea. So Catch, this happened last night. You want to talk NIL and where we are? This is what happened last night. For those that don't know, there's a secondary pro wrestling organization that's on television called AEW. All right. Guys like Chris Jericho and some others are there. Catch, last night, AEW was in New Orleans. They began the show with Tony Schiavone, the announcer.
Okay, Tony.
Bringing Master P to the ring. Master P gets in the ring, entertains the crowd a little bit, some uhs and some na-na-na-nas, but then he's joined by the Trios champions, which includes Samoa Joe. I don't know if you're familiar with Samoa Joe, big-time wrestler to some people. Samoa Joe and Master P both reference the University of New Orleans collective and what Master P is doing to help athletes at UNO. That happened on TBS television last night at a pro wrestling show. And I was watching like, wait, what the hell is going on? Master P has this UNO shirt on, all spangled up. And he's talking about, go support Big Blue Collective or whatever it was. And I'm like, man, we are in another universe when it comes to this stuff. It was crazy. That happened last night. And now we're talking about NIL and Arkansas. Like, it's just, man, it's crazy. Just crazy. All right. We got buy or sell coming up. Catch, anything else we need to hit before buy or sell?
Well, just where's your head in the draft? I mean, I'm going to ask you some draft questions so you don't have to spill your guts on it. But if the thing that is centermost in your brain going into tonight?
Honestly, it is the fall of Shedeur Sanders. That's the one thing that's been on my brain the last couple of days. I don't mean to focus on a negative, but that's kind of where I've been. We know what's going to happen at the top, but I've been interested in how the quarterbacks lay out. Also, because I'm married to a Steelers fan who's flipping out about quarterback and what are they going to do at 21 and all that. And, we've been following the whole quarterback story. And this has shown up kind of late in the discussion of Sanders and the just weird drop here. And, last night on The Outsiders, we had Cody Carpentier on, and he said he just mocked Shedeur Sanders to the second round, early second round. That's amazing to me. So that's the story I'm kind of watching to see, is that going to be and he's not going to be there, I don't think. Like, they're not going to put him, he's going to hang in Boulder. But that story to me is pretty wild to follow, how far Shedeur Sanders is going to fall. So I'm watching quarterbacks and the Sanders story.
I hadn't really thought a lot about Sanders tonight. I think he's a second round player. I do. But hitting on young quarterbacks in the NFL is the most valuable thing that you can do. So you can really argue that taking a flyer on a guy, you just keep doing it until you hit. And that once you hit, you live on that rookie contract like the 49ers were able to do with a Bryce Purdy.
Yeah.
And man, it's gravy train time until you have to give that guy a second contract. And there's like a 4-year window that's amazing for an NFL team to be able to operate that way. I think one of the things I wonder about at the top of the draft, next year's draft at quarterback has a chance to be a doozy. And that's not even including Arch Manning, who would be draft eligible. But there's some big-time talents out there that in this next quarterback class, if they develop and take a step, a guy like Cade Klubnik is a perfect example. I think if Cade Klubnik were in this draft, he'd go number 2 or number 3 overall. Even though we've only seen him have a small, limited, like real high-level amount of success, the Texas game certainly being at the forefront of that. But I think they'll like these guys in the 2026 class and believe that their upside is, can they be a top 15 quarterback in the NFL kind of a guy? And I think next year there are more guys like that than there. And if you take Sanders now early and you commit yourself to that guy, what if you win 3 games next year and you're in a position where your greatest asset isn't more valuable than you know what I mean? Suddenly you are counterfeiting what you're trying to do from an infrastructure standpoint. And the best thing to do at that point is, you know what? Let's not take Shedeur Sanders. Let's take Ashton Genty, and we'll see what next year looks like. But if we're taking a quarterback, we want to do it in a strong quarterback year and not in a you have to be desperate to draft a quarterback year.
Yeah. So once Ward is gone, is there anybody you'd tell the Giants to trust at 3 or the Saints to trust at 9?
Nope.
Okay. What's the pick that is value for you at Shedeur Sanders? Somebody take
round,
just anywhere in the second, like 33 or higher.
If a team if the Chiefs took Shedeur Sanders in the first round, and it's like, okay, well, we've seen teams do this thing where they, the Patriots were kind of famous for it. They'll take a guy and then trade him later. They were going to be as ready as possible for the post Brady world as they could be, and they weren't when it was all said and done. But they tried hard to do that, and then you end up with an asset like Jimmy Garoppolo, and then you pedal him, and then you bring in the next guy, and you do that over and over and over again. If a really good NFL team, if the Eagles took Shedeur Sanders and said, yes, we've got Jalen Hurts, but you know what? We'd like to have a quarterback that's a little more like for like, that can be a little bit athletic, that can move around in the pocket, that's good. We just need to be better at quarterback. And you know what? We don't ever want to be in a position where if Jalen Hurts gets hurt, we're cooked. So we think for the next 5 years, this locks us up at the quarterback position. And if he ever gets so good that he has so much value that we either have to play him because he's our best quarterback, or we trade him for assets greater than what we just used. Like, I can talk myself into it. It's being okay. It is a team. It's a team that has real quarterback needs that needs to stay away from him. So hell no to any of the teams you mentioned.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
But if the Cowboys in the second round, or if the Cowboys said, you know what we want to do? We're going to move up. And I can't imagine they would do this. They've already used draft capital on multiple quarterbacks. And they use draft capital on Trey Lance. They use draft capital in the most recent trade that they made. I hear that, the rumor is, Chad, that Quinn Ewers is going in the 3rd round of the Cowboys. I've heard that from 10 people.
Interesting.
That there is Jerry. I'm hearing that Jerry likes Quinn the way Jerry liked Manziel.
Okay.
In that's his guy.
That's his boy. Okay. That's the dude.
And that get to the 3rd round and like the front office might let Jerry have his guy.
3rd round. Right. Yeah. That makes more sense than, yeah. But thankfully they were able to the Cowboys.
I'm telling you, if you hear, Chad, if the Cowboys draft Quinn Ewers in the 3rd round, you heard it from me first. And I'm telling you, I heard it from like 100 other people first.
There you go. All right. Paul threw us a $9.99 super chat. This is crazy. Buddy works for NFL team. For the first time, multiple teams are taking players off boards, concerned about desire after getting NIL payments. And then 2, prime on prime, Palm Clementif, hotter than Vanessa Kirby. Catch, I had to look up both.
Because I don't know who the hell Palm Clementif is.
I looked her. You know her. You just didn't know that was her name if you search for her. Both very attractive. I'm going to sell and go with Kirby. It's close, though. It's close.
I'm going to trust Chad.
Let's sell and go with Kirby there. But that is pretty, that's an interesting thought on NFL teams and desire.
I don't know how much I believe that.
Yeah.
No offense, Paul, but man, teams don't take guys off the board in some cases if they murder somebody. Like you can do a lot of shit in the NFL and they'll forgive it. And here's the thing. All of their good players make shit tons of money. So the idea that a guy would lose motivation after he has money is strange because all of the players in the league, their number one goal is to make more money. All of them. Yeah. It's literally the thing they're obsessed about, making more money. So I don't know. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I bet in some of these instances, it might be something else too.
Yeah. This is another weird one Big Cheddar brings up that I'll be following. The funniest thing I've heard today about the draft has been whether or not Shamar Stewart knows how to play football based on his lack of production versus his combine performance. Big Cheddar, it's going to be an interesting one. On a personal level, Catch, that is definitely something I'm paying attention to. You've already mentioned Scorton and Stewart, and are they both going to go first round tonight? That would be obviously.
I've got a Stewart question about yourself.
I'm sure you do. Okay, hang on. That
involves vomiting in your mouth. If you want a tease of the question.
There we go. Super chat, $5 from Mike D. Parting shot. Do we win a natty in either of the last 2 years with Milroe instead of Quinn?
That's a great question.
Milroe instead of Quinn. Man, you're going to lose. There's going to be some throws Quinn made.
I'm going to say yes because Milroe is giving. Quinn was already inconsistent and inaccurate as a passer. Yeah. Certainly. What are we losing if we lose Quinn? We're losing in the big games. He was very mid and constantly had stretches of play throughout this season where for 30, 40 minutes of game time, I'll take Milroe. If nothing else, hey man, there are people who are saying that I think this is baloney, but I saw one quote that they believe he's the best running quarterback that's ever entered the draft. I think that's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know that I think he's in the top 10, but I think he's really badass as a runner. Like, don't mistake me for saying he's not Michael Vick with saying, I think he's electric with the ball in his hand. So yes, I'm going to say bye. Boom. I said it. Y'all can get mad at me, but at the end of the day, what are we talking about Texas was getting from Quinn that it would be losing?
Yeah. Mike, I'll just go with what I actually saw, and I didn't actually see Milroe win it all. So I'll say no, it wouldn't have been a natty. Closer maybe in a couple instances.
Yeah,
but
okay. Well, look, I didn't see Washington win the natty, but if I'd put Michael Penix on last year's Texas team, I think they probably win the championship.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, that's a fair argument. So yeah, I mean, I'll go the other way on it, Mike, but that's close. I like the question. I love that question. All right. Before
get me in trouble with that question, I know I can sense.
Yeah.
It almost feels like we're going to have a Quinn talk on Monday.
They were trying to lead you into danger.
And when are we going to get to the point where we can talk about it? When Arch starts kicking ass, you know what's going to happen, Chad?
What's that?
You know what people are going to start thinking?
Yes, I do.
He should have been the quarterback last year.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say is they're convinced that Arch is going to stay that he wants to be a starter for 2 years no matter what. So that if he had started last year, this could be his exit year. Now,
Right.
it's possible that you win a championship in 2024 that you wouldn't have won, and then maybe 2025 you can't, because I feel like next year is their year. I haven't said this out loud, but I've kind of hinted at it. I'm picking Texas to win the 2026 national championship. It's Arch's final year. All of the things I think we somewhat worry about, I don't think we're worrying about. Like, we go into next year's offseason, they're not having to replace the entire offensive line. They have their starting tight end come back. They have starting wide receivers coming back. They have a starting quarterback coming back. They get Colin Simmons coming back. They lose Anthony Hill, but they return so much. Look, let me read you their seniors, Chad, because this is a program that is wildly young. The number of sophomores, redshirt freshmen, and freshmen in the program is startling, because when you look at now hold on, I gotta find my scholarship board. And
This is guys that are going to be seniors in 26, is what you're saying?
oh, why is life making this difficult for me, Chad? They just don't have a lot of good seniors and juniors that they're just not very deep. I think they've got 10 seniors, and a couple of those are kickers and punters, and the junior class isn't very deep. So when this season ends, it shouldn't quite be like last year, where it feels like an overwhelming majority of the team that were key contributors has departed. I think you're going to get a lot more coming back at the most important positions possible. Quarterback, not so sure about left tackle. Like, Trevor Gooseby could be the exception to this conversation that we're having, but you get Colin Simmons back for his junior year. Like, there's some high level. This freshman group of receivers gets to be a sophomore, and you let those guys grow up, and it all looks a certain kind of way, in my opinion.
All right. If y'all want to throw us one last super chat, we can get to it. We got buy or sell coming right up. Before we do that, real quick, let me just remind you about the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. Oh, they've got the vodka out there for you. All these cocktails and more. Remember, pineapple's out there now. 9 different flavors. So you know they're mixing up some badass, like pina colada on the rocks type stuff out there. Go on out. Tell them what your favorite flavor is, and they will tell you what they can do for you. We are talking to you on a Thursday after 12. So they're open, ready to roll. 12 to 7 on Thursdays, Friday and Saturday, 11 to 7, Sundays, 12 to 5. We're making a plan to get out to the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room for a show, maybe in July, like late July, August, somewhere in that range, for a little show and OB event. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. But until then, get on out to the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. Tell them that you heard about it here on Orange Bloods Live. All right, Catch, anything else before we buy or sell today?
Well, just real quick. This is what your senior class looks like. These are your non-special teams seniors.
This is for 26 or for this year?
This is this year. This is like, when the season's over, this is who you're having to replace, not including juniors. And we can talk about those as well, but there's not a lot of names on there. Okay, so here we go, right? You've got DJ Campbell, Cole Hudson, Ethan Burke, Cole Pravard, Travis Shaw, Trey Moore, Jalen Gilbo, Michael Taff. Good players, but is there anybody in that group that you think their departure changes everything?
No.
I agree. Even Gilbo, who I think is probably the best player in that group.
I was going to say, I mean, you know, Gilbo and Taft, certainly really good football players in their own right, but like nothing that, you know, you don't feel like is being replaced.
No, there's going to be drafted players. There's going to be like 4 or 5 drafted players from that group. I think Taft gets drafted, and Gilbo gets drafted, and Moore gets drafted, and Brevard probably gets drafted. I don't know about Travis Shaw. Like, I don't know, but probably because he's a former 5-star, and teams will always take chances on big guys with an upside, just like Texas did with Travis Shaw, quite frankly. Everybody wants to see if they can be the one to get that thing ignited. And then Campbell, Hudson, Burke, all those guys can be drafted easily. Like Campbell and Burke, I expect to be drafted. But their departures don't make me think, oh, God, what are they going to do in 2026? You look at the juniors who would be draft eligible. It's Trey Wisner. It's DeAndre Moore. It's Jack injuries. Maybe one you'd have to keep an eye on. Although, again, all your young guys at the position will be a year older and maybe more aligned. Neto, Connor, Hero Canoe, Lavon Johnson, Leon Gillifau, Anthony Hill is the one guy we know is almost certainly not going to be back.
Right.
Brad Spence, Malik Muhammad, Jelani McDonald, all guys I think will play in the league on some level, but not guys that I think, well, once they lose them. And I think there were just, we go through this past year's team, it's Bond, really. They never replaced Bond. They still haven't replaced Bond. It's the thing they're looking for at receiver in the portal. Matthew Golden, Kelvin Banks, Jade Barron, there are just more guys. It's like, oh my God, that guy is gone, huh? And there's just more of a volume, 4 of your 5 starting offensive linemen and the overwhelming majority of your wide receivers. It's just, it's a lot. And Texas had to do that a couple of years ago. It was like, okay, well, what did they lose? Worthy, Mitchell, Whittington. That's a lot. And how did they replace that? Through the portal with guys, but the desperation, I think, a little bit in the portal this year of, oh my God, we really do have needs to clean up a lot of things. I think next year they come back and you're just looking to, I think next year is really when they go Ohio State 2024 in the portal. I think most of their NIL money gets centered on like 3 guys.
Okay.
And they go out and get Caleb Downs. Whoever that and what position that is in next year's portal, they go all in for that because they won't quite need the extra tight end and the 5 defensive tackles and all of the things. They won't have 2 kickers on scholarship, but then need to get rid of one so they can take another, like all of that stuff. I think they've got 2 punters on the roster right now. Like they just I think this stuff clears itself up and they're just in an even better scholarship and organizational situation next year. So, I think they're the best positioned team in the next 2 seasons to win a national championship. So if I was going to predict somebody wins a national championship in the next 2 years because of the quarterback situation and the overall state of the depth chart and what I think will actually exist once those players are in next season, I think that I would rank Texas number 1 in that group. And then number 2, probably Ohio State, Chad. I don't know. Until Georgia gets its quarterback thing figured out, and I don't think they do, I can't put Georgia in the same conversation as a Texas with Arch Manning.
All right, Catch, to bring it around to the back to the title of the show, show me on one hand, I'm assuming you won't need both. Show me on one hand, how many portal additions will Texas have between this moment and the end of the spring portal? How many additions are still coming?
I'm going to say 3. I'm going to say 1 more enters before tomorrow.
Okay.
And then somebody gets caught. Something happens. I don't know what it is. If I knew it, I'd tell you who the hell it was and why it was happening. But something happens between April and August that opens up a late scholarship, and they'll, at the very end, be able to throw a late flyer on somebody or something.
Gotcha. All right. Are you ready to buy or sell?
Yeah.
Do you have anything? Do you have anything in your buy or sell that can top you singing?
Maybe.
Should I go first?
No, I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
My last question. It kind of depends on where we go with it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Buy or sell number 1. There's a part of you that can't believe that Matthew Golden is going to be a first-round draft pick tonight.
Yeah, buy. I mean, even though we watched it all play out, there's still a part of me that's going to feel a little bit like, wow. But I mean, he's one of the great good for that guys I have ever seen, to use the portal the way he did, to turn himself from that into that at first. And then as the season goes on, it's that. And then at the combine, it's that. and now he might be the first true just wide receiver off the board. It's amazing.
I think he's going to be the best receiver in the NFL that the University of Texas has ever created.
He may very well be by the time it's all said and done. But yes, there's still a part of me that can't believe it.
Buy or sell number 2. Texas will regret not going stronger after O-line help in the portal.
I mean, I'll just play the math and say buy. Obviously, the big play last year where you had an injured offensive lineman, you probably should have reworked that situation. But yeah, I'll buy it because there's probably going to be a moment with an interior guy, or it might even be a tackle, but I feel like it's an interior situation where we'll look back, and if they don't make a move, we'll look back and go, oh, yeah, you maybe should have thought about that.
By the way, do you know how many upper-class offensive linemen Texas has in its program? Pop quiz.
Upper-class offensive linemen Texas
Seniors
has.
and juniors.
2.
4. DJ Campbell, Cole Hudson, Neto Yamuzalo, Connor Robertson.
Wow. Okay.
How many of those guys do we think are good players?
Maybe 2. Am I being too nice? Just 1? Okay.
Just 1.
Fair enough.
At least going into the season.
You definitely didn't need 2 hands for that one.
By the way, anyway, I'll move on. Buy or sell number 3. You'll vomit in your mouth if the Cowboys draft Shamar Stewart at number 12, because I will.
Vomit in my mouth. By the spirit of your buy or sell, I will buy, because that would make no sense. That will make absolutely no sense.
I'm completely on board with go often. We're never, Chad, here's where I am on the Cowboys from now on. We're never going to win a Super Bowl, and we might not ever be good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just be badass on offense.
Yeah, I think the offensive, definitely offensive side's the way to go. Plus, again, back to the discussion of Shamar, it's not just the production part, but now there's some discussions about Shamar and just, after the combine and the interviews have not gone super well for Shamar Stewart. There's just something happening there with him that teams are starting to go, wait, what is going on with this guy? So he definitely doesn't feel like he needs to go 12 to whoever it is, but definitely not 12 to the Cowboys.
Buy or sell number 4. Cam Ward will be a top 15 starting quarterback in the NFL at his peak.
Top 15 starting quarterback in the NFL at his peak. So
he'll be in the top half.
Yeah, you made it top 15. You made it fairly easy for me. I'll be positive. I'll say buy, even if it's the back end of that. If he's the 13th or 14th.
What if I said 10?
Best quarterback. 10 I would have sold. I'll buy top 15. I'll buy top 15.
Plus 15 is the 13 through 17 or 20 probably is fluid, right?
Yeah. Plus we got to remember who's drafting him. Holy hell. The Tennessee Titans, you're putting some level of trust. If you just said top 10, I don't think I can trust the Titans to pull that off, but maybe top 15.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. I considered not including this question in buy or sell.
Okay.
But I needed something to close the show, Chad.
Okay.
Buy or sell number 5. Shannon Sharp needs to stop having sex with women that aren't old enough to legally drink.
Wow.
Because he's 60. He's 60. And he's all caught up in this OnlyFans situation with a girl that was 19. It might have been 18. I'm not telling you the way to answer the question, but Shannon.
Hey, you know what?
Some grown-ups.
Based on how you've presented this and the fact that you used the phrase legally drink, I'm going to assume that you're discussing people that are just south of legally drink.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sell. I'm going to say it's Shannon Sharp's business. And I'm going to say that, it's their situation, not mine. Now, if I knew Shannon Sharp, I would definitely tell him to have that discussion with himself about, you're this old. You need to be thinking about a different age group, in my opinion, overall. But I'll sell. I'm going to stay out of the man's business for now.
No, man. Stop having sex with children.
60 and 19 is a gap.
Your daughter is basically old enough for Shannon Sharp.
That is it's a gap. 60 to 18 or 19.
That's like your dad dating your daughter.
Oh, it's not that bad. My dad's damn near 80. Calm down. Calm down. It's not that bad.
I was trying to give you a little credit, make you younger.
Oh, I see. Okay, I appreciate you. Yes, I'm a spry 50 in this discussion, right? Yeah, no problem.
Right. That's
all right.
Like I said, I don't know if that's better than me singing, but I enjoyed putting you on the spot.
All right, Catch, for the very first time, these are all recycled from yesterday because we didn't get a chance to buy or sell, but they all apply. Buy or sell number 1. Murad Watson is the best D tackle Texas got in the portal. He will start in Columbus.
I'm going to say buy because they are financially committed to Murad Watson. So I think there is incentive. I think they think he's going to be a starter, and I think that they think they got quality there. This is not. I don't think they feel like they've gone risky here. I think we're going to feel like they paid what they paid to get what they think they're going to get, and I think they get a starter there.
I think this is what you said this week, Catch. I just want to get you on the record. Buy or sell number 2. First Longhorn off the board tonight will be Barron. Buy or sell?
God, I have no idea. So, I mean, I've got a 2 and 3 chance of being wrong and 1 and 3 chance of being right. I'm going to sell. I'll go Banks.
Okay.
That's at the end of the day, I have to believe that there's an NFL team that has ignored all of the conversation around Kelvin Banks and just sees what I see, which is a badass left tackle of the future that locks that position down for a decade. And
yeah, it's like, you don't want one of those?
If you tell me that Kelvin Banks is a Hall of Famer in 20 years, I'm like, okay.
We'll see that. And that's, you may have made the exact argument here. No disrespect to the other 2 guys, but if the discussion is who goes off the board first, which of those 3 guys has the best chance to wear a gold jacket?
I mean, it's so easy for me.
Right? I think it's easily Banks. I think it should be Banks as the first guy off the board tonight. I'm going to be happy for whoever it is, but I am going to be a little kind of, what? If it's not Banks. I just feel like it should be him, but we'll see.
All I know, man, is I've seen Kelvin Banks go up against NFL defensive ends, really good ones. I've seen him play Will Anderson, for God's sakes.
Yes, absolutely. Big time opponents, big time. Yeah, the tape is full of them, just full of moments from him. And the numbers are silly. So hopefully he will be that guy, and hopefully they all go in the first round tonight. All right, Catch, let's get to business tomorrow at the Dish. Buy or sell number 3. You got Texas baseball winning the series versus the Aggies, but not sweeping. Buy or sell?
Sell. Sweeps is what Texas baseball and the SEC does. Weak ass conference.
4 out of 6 so far. Well, you're playing the math.
There we go. Yeah, back to 2 out of 3.
So far, you're playing the math. And that's sometimes what baseball's all about. All right, Catch, let's finish with 2 birthdays from yesterday. John Cena was 48 yesterday. He is not on your wrestling Mount Rushmore.
Bye. He's not even close. But I did miss most of his era. Mm-hmm. And I was really dismissive of him, mainly because I just never believed that he could be the best and baddest dude in wrestling. I just never believed that. He'd never passed that in a way where it was like, oh, no, if these 2 guys got into a fight, John Cena would win. Like, I just never felt like he's the baddest guy. So I think there has to be a part of that in all of them, that they just feel massive. And for me, that's not John Cena.
All right, fair enough. Happy birthday to John. 48 as of.
And I kind of resent the 17.
Yeah, I do in a way. I don't resent the 17. I resent the people that think the 17 means he has to be the greatest. Like, the sports argument for that is weird enough, Catch, but come on, we're talking about pro wrestling here. Like, if we're going to have the conversation, let's have the conversation.
Yeah.
Come on. All right, Catch. And finally, this is basically just a test of how good a mood you're in today. Buy or sell number 5. Lee Majors was 86 yesterday. And even a day.
Never spent much time in school, but I've taught ladies plenty. Oh, yeah. What are we doing?
That makes you want to sing. Well, I'm not the kind to kiss and tell.
Hey.
So you did it. You did it beautifully. By the way,
my favorite thing about that song is all the name drops. It's the most 1980 thing of anything about modern pop culture. It's like, let me know that it's 1980 or 1981. And it's a whole lot of Farrah Fawcett, a whole lot of Cheryl Tiegs, a whole lot of Raquel Welch.
Sally Field, Bo Derek. I mean, it's excellent, which is more proof, Catch, that what they did to it at the end of the movie was a crime
against humanity.
It was a crime against everybody. It was a crime against humanity, music. Like, it was so terrible to rewrite that song. I don't know the logic for rewriting that song. It makes no sense. Also, did you know there's a third verse that involves Burt Reynolds?
No.
Go look it up. It's clunky as hell. When you read it, you'll realize why it didn't make the show. Because it's just like, you're kind of like, okay, I kind of get it. Like, it starts with I've never been the president, but I've had a lot of first ladies. But then it weakens from there. And the end of it, it's like, because I'm the unknown stunt man that made a lover out of Bert. And it's like, huh?
What?
It's really weird. Yeah, it's really weird. They did the right thing by landing on the Clint Eastwood line. Because Clint Eastwood looks so fine, you're done. You're done, finished, and we're out of there. Happy 86 to Lee Majors. $6 million man. Still rolling.
And was with Farrah Fawcett in her prime.
Yeah, he was. That was a hell of a good-looking couple back. Remember them? You'd see shots of them on TV. If we'd have had like insider shows back then, do you realize
that would have been the Brangelina of its day?
Exactly. We would have seen them everywhere. They would have been on the cover of everything. They would have been in every
$6 million man.
Yeah. I mean, Bert and Lonnie were up there, but I think Lee Majors and Farrah Fawcett even top them. That might be the best looking 80s, hairspray white couple of our time.
And she left him for Ryan
O'Neal.
That's right.
God, Farrah Fawcett didn't date uglies, did she?
I was going to say, man, again, that really would have been like the Brangelina. It would have been like, he left Jennifer Aniston? Who for? Oh.
Yeah. Well, you know that the line in the Fall Guy theme where it says, I've never been seen with anything less than a 9 so fine. Farrah Fawcett would probably nod and go, yeah, take that up to 9.5 for me. Yeah. They don't never catch me with
guys on Orange Bloods that went to high school with Farrah Fawcett.
Really?
They say she was an awesome girl, like in high school and into college, and went to college with her. And
very cool.
And yes, she was beautiful even back then.
Oh, I'm sure. Imagine her walking the halls, go into a locker. You're at lunch. You're just in line, and there's Farrah Fawcett. Like, come on. It's crazy.
Well, there's a joke on Orange Bloods. Anytime someone posts a picture of a woman where someone always is nitpicking women, always, right? Like, no matter how beautiful it is, it's like, oh, she's got toe thumbs. I wouldn't be interested. And so the line is seen better on campus. If you went to UT when Farrah Fawcett was on campus, you can literally almost put a picture up of any woman in the world and say, seen better on campus, and it'd be legitimately correct and not hyperbole.
I have seen better on campus. Had a poli-sci class with Farrah Fawcett. What? What did you say?
I went to middle school with a future Miss America. Yeah.
There you go.
And so I could always say, like, I could say the same thing when I was in middle school. I went to school with somebody who is one of the most beautiful women in the world. She was an Aggie too.
Oh, there you go.
I think she dated Billy.
Lucci?
Yes.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that did happen.
Wow.
Because I remember after hearing about it being like, hey.
Slow clap for Lucci. I mean, Come on.
It was one of those where it's like, Billy, man, I think I had been wanting to hook up with her since the 7th or 8th grade. So if you made that happen.
Yeah. Holy moly, Mr. Lucci.
I am not a hater. Contrary to what Oklahoma fans think I am.
Yeah. One day away from that house divided baseball series getting back together. Good on you, Billy Lucci. Good.
You think Billy would ever let us talk about that? Dude, you dated a Miss America.
Do I think he would let us talk about it? Like if we got him on the show?
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay.
It's Billy.
You're right.
I don't think there's much to. Would he?
I feel like that's what somebody would say about me.
Would he give us intense details? No. But would he acknowledge it? Sure.
If I introduced it by, I went to middle school with a girl that you used to date. And then I was like, can you guess which one? And maybe that's how we introduce it into the vernacular. And then
that would be, just promise me the next time we get Lucci on, that happens. I just think that needs to happen. That needs to be like not the first question, because we'll get lost. The last question. The last question.
I'm just going to say, Billy, just so you know, we randomly.
Yeah, Billy, before we let you go, that's what we need.
I mentioned that I once, because we were talking about Farrah Fawcett, and that if you went to school, I would just set it all up. And then I mentioned that I went to middle school with a woman that won. It was either like Miss America, Miss USA. I don't think it was Miss Universe. So it was one of the America pageants. Here, let me Google her name and see which one it was.
Now you're
I'm 1,000% sure.
I'm going to know her name when you. I'm going to know the name when you say it,
She
because I do
won Miss
remember
USA.
I remember a Miss USA that was an Aggie. I just can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Candace Kruger.
Yep, that was the name. I remember that name.
Miss USA 2001.
There it is. Very nice.
She was second runner-up in Miss Universe. God damn, Candace.
I know they say second.
Let me tell you something. When you're 13, sometimes you're right. Sometimes you see a 13-year-old girl and you think to yourself, she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life. And then she turns into Miss USA.
Right. And they say second place is the first loser. But Catch, if you're in basically the top 5 at Miss Universe, I'm just going to say you get to say that forever. Forever. I don't care where you are.
The first Texan to make the top 10 in the Miss USA when she did it in like half a decade. So that means what? She was the most beautiful Texan of a half a generation? Like, I don't know, man.
Oh, I remember her. And she was quite a story. Quite a story. Fantastic. All right. Didn't think we'd have that story at the end of the show. Anything else?
What I'm going to bring up, Chad.
That's true. This is what happens when Catch doesn't have time constraints and the show just goes. This is what can happen. This is what can happen.
It wasn't yesterday.
Anything else we need to hit today, Mr. Ketchum?
No, I didn't go to middle school with anybody else.
Fair enough. All right. As I get ready to promote things, is it fair to say that after the third Longhorn gets drafted in the first round tonight, people might want to jump on Orange Bloods Live because there might be a reaction video?
Yep.
All right. Did y'all hear that? Did you hear it? When the third guy, whichever order they go in, when the third guy gets drafted, check out right here at Orange Bloods Live. A reaction show will happen. Football with Friends tonight at 6. How about this? A special show tomorrow morning. Anwar is going to step aside and allow the Football with Friends guys to give you a full first round recap. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., they're going to get you a full recap of whatever happens tonight in the first round. What do the Cowboys do? What do the Texans do? How many quarterbacks go? And yes, most importantly, how many Longhorns go in the first round? Is it just those 3? Does somebody else sneak into the first round? Or is it somehow just 2? And there's a wacky story to talk about somebody falling out of the first round. All of that tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, and getting the notifications. We've said it, over 25,000 subscribers. Thank you for that. All the millions of views. Thank you for that. And if you didn't like on the way in, go ahead and like on the way out. Subscribe. It does help. All the numbers, all the stuff. Thank you all for the super chats today as well. We'll be back tomorrow for a Friday edition of House Divided. We'll wrap up all that first round of the draft stuff. But also, it'll be the last day of the portal, technically. Last day to get in to that portal. We'll see if Texas has done anything by that time and what they may need to do. We'll get all that discussed tomorrow. Y'all take care of yourselves. We are House Divided. This is Orange Bloods Live. And shout out to the former